tuned in to Animal Control Report with your hosts,
Ashley Bishop.
How you doing, Bishop?
I'm pretty good. I'm excited. I got some time coming up, so.
Very good. And your other
I
host,
was gonna
Dan
say, who are
Lettinger.
you?
That's
Yeah.
me too. I'm here.
And who else do you have with you, Dan?
We got Moondog. Can you hear him?
You hear
He's
the
making
clicking.
a special guest appearance. You might hear a bark or two today. It's fine. So, Bishop, it's been a while. It's really been a while since we've recorded. People might not know that because the episodes just keep flowing. How you been? How are things?
Good. Crazy. Silly. I mean, you and I talked off air about my situation with my multiple jurisdictions and some of them not wanting to take animals due to money.
Well, we don't have to dive deep into that, but yeah,
No.
I'm sure if other people have similar situations where they work for, they may be one agency, but then they contract with others, they may feel your pain.
Yeah. Well, I can say that I have been able to work with as long as I can work with other organizations. We've talked about, HSUS, ASPCA, whatever, specifically when I'm looking into deep cases and having to pair up maybe with a forensic veterinarian.
Oh, that's a good segue right into today. Before we get started with that, though, I just want to make sure people check out the website, humanemaine.com. Please go to that part on wherever you're listening and rate the podcast. I think you have an opportunity to rate 1 to 5. Just rate it. We don't really, maybe we care what you rate it, but rating is good. It just helps show that people are engaged. And, as we continue to grow this podcast, we just want to make sure we're here for our listeners and friends of the show. So that's good stuff.
And if you like the Facebook page and get involved with that, we actually have a chat option with everybody involved.
Yeah, and that's a really cool thing. That's the Animal Control Report group. And you can, if you don't have access to it, just shoot us a message. You can also hear Moondog playing with his toy in the back because I'm too busy. He's like, Dad, oh wait, here, Dad. Here, I'll bring you the toy. So check that closed group out as well. And there you can just share stuff back to back. We, it's easier that way than just going in those large ACO groups where, it kind of sometimes comments can get lost, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, I'm excited about today's show. And I think as we tease the pick of the litter later, we have to kind of modify it a little bit, but we're still going to do it. So just roll with that on the fly. I might have to jump in and ask a question or two.
And we may also have some other information at the end of the episode.
Okay. I like to hear it. Good deal. So. All right. Well, let's bring in our guest, Dr. Bishop. This is why
I told you were going to mess it up.
Dr. Martha Smith-Blackmore. She is an internationally recognized forensic veterinarian, right? Did I get that right?
You talking to me?
I'm talking to you.
Yeah,
He's trying to talk about you, but I don't know. His words get weird.
Yeah,
my words don't work.
Yes, and thank you. I'm real excited to be here.
We're excited to have you, and we know a little bit about you through I found out about you through some trainings and things in the past, and then we've had your co-author of a book that you wrote, Dr. Virginia Maxwell, on the show, who I've known for a few years as well, and we're just excited to have you and talk forensics. I know Bishop with the vet tech background has probably more, I would say, like technical skills when it comes to that stuff, but I'm fascinated by forensic
Awesome. It is a fascinating topic, but I come at this from the perspective of a veterinarian who's worked in animal sheltering for my entire career, and I've worked for private nonprofit organizations that do have police powers, and currently I work as the interim medical director for the City of Boston Animal Care and Control. So I've worked with animal control agencies in a lot of different capacities.
How did you get started in it?
My first position out of vet school was an internship at Angel Memorial Animal Hospital, the MSPCA, Massachusetts SPCA, and they have a special law enforcement department with police powers granted by the state police. So as early as the beginning of my internship, officers were bringing me cases and saying, "Hey, doc, here's the animal. Here's what's going on with it. This is what's been alleged, or this is what we think happened. What do you think? Do the injuries fit?" So I got I got sucked in from the get-go. I loved thinking about those questions and trying to answer them. But at the same time, I was becoming, the more questions I answered based on gut intuition combined with my training, the more concerned I was becoming that I could be contributing to maybe to a false allegation just
Mm.
because of personal bias. So I sought more training. So it's been an evolution.
Was that something you saw for yourself going into vet school? Is
Oh,
that you
heck
ever wanted to
no.
see that? Okay.
Absolutely not. When I was aiming towards vet school, I simply thought that I would help families enjoy healthy relationships with their pets. And the idea of dissecting animals in order to get into vet school was abhorrent to me.
Mm.
So, like I said, it's been a huge evolution to go from a point of being repulsed by the idea of opening animals and looking inside of them to being drawn to it and understanding all the reasons why it's necessary and important.
It's
Yes.
incredible that there's so much that the body can tell you, and that's, I think, one of the quotes when I was watching this video this morning. I was talking to you about Dr. Richard Stroud, and I think he said, "Let the body speak," which is
I thought you
something.
were going to say let the bodies hit the floor.
Hey, let the bodies hit the flow.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's not beyond me to say stuff like that, but the body, like, you learn so much. So there's really no bias when you let the body speak. Like, that's what forensics is all about. You look at all the facts, you collect all the information. I'm sure there's always a like room for error, but for the most part, it's pretty solid.
It is. It's just a matter of looking and allowing your findings to present themselves to you. So it's not a matter of inventing information. It's just what is there and what can I learn from it. And I love what you say about Dr. Stroud, and it's actually a saying in Latin. And I was trying to remember what it is, but it's oh God. Morci die, I forget. I can't speak Latin clearly, but it's something about
Hey, we
let
have
the
something
dead
in common.
let the dead let the dead speak for themselves, and you'll see that inscribed or on a plaque in many
Hmm.
necropsy rooms and autopsy rooms because it is the guiding principle, really.
Hmm.
Since having gotten into this, do you have a particular, I don't want to say genre, but like type of incident that you gravitate towards more for investigation purposes?
No, 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 no. I take the work as it comes to me. It The frequency with which I see cases, I would say, is number one, blunt trauma, number two, starvation, abandonment, and then kind of tied for third is everything else: sharp
Hmm.
force injury, projectile injury, sexual abuse, kind of the whole gamut of ways that people can unfortunately creatively harm animals.
So much, so much harm animals, and I think that's important to have somebody that's able to look at that with the close eye that you have. Is there a team too, or are you the only forensic veterinarian currently at the shelter?
So I have a private consulting business that I perform postmortem exams and serve as an expert witness consultant to agencies all over the country. So the
Okay.
work that I do with the city of Boston, yeah, I have a vet tech there and I have animal control officers that can assist. But when I'm at my own facility doing my own work, I am um, the transport. I'm the, at the medical examiner's office, they have a team of folks who undress the bodies and prepare it, do all the body radiographs. I do that. I shave my animals. I do my radiographs. I lug these animals up and downstairs to
Wow.
radiology. And every once in a while, if there's an animal over 60 pounds or so, I'll have to hire an assistant just because it's not good for me to try and do all that work on my own.
And is that the website? Is that vetinvestigator.com?
Vetinvestigator.com, and you will see if you look at the team, you will see there is a team, and these are all folks who are expert in their own field and who have offered themselves up as regular consultants to me. So, in addition to me, there's a police officer out of Denton, Texas. There's a federal agent. A retired federal agent with expertise in forensic investigations, and
Wow.
you'll see other folks, but we're not sitting under one roof all at one time
Sure.
going, okay boss, what are we doing today?
So if I'm an officer in Do they have to be local for your services? So let's say I'm in,
Colorado?
well, yeah, I am in Colorado. Let's use that.
For example,
That's a
let's
great
say.
example. Huh? That's where I'm at currently. Yeah. So say there's a Colorado situation and I need your advice, or I'm like, hey, I know that there's a forensic veterinarian that could potentially help on this case. How does that work?
So I will talk to anybody just to get an idea of what they're dealing with and then help them find the best avenue to pursue. Say they need a postmortem exam or they need a clinical exam. And usually, because of the expense and the difficulty of shipping frozen remains,
Hmm.
the solution is going to be working with somebody more locally. However, with a cat, small dog, shipping isn't a big deal. And so it's
Okay.
very easy for me to be the primary, the person performing the primary exam on those animals. But as I said, I'm really happy to consult with anyone and at no charge. Just, you're facing this challenge. Let me help you figure out some solutions or suggest some approaches.
All right. For the listeners, just so they know, vetinvestigator.com is the website and they can contact you through there.
Yes, I have a contact us web form page.
Awesome. Good stuff.
Can you talk a little bit about the Animal Doe Project?
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you for asking. So, Puppy Doe was a very notable case that I was involved with before I established my independent consulting business. And she was a pit bull type dog that had been
Oh, I love
very,
that. Thank you. Sorry.
very, okay, very,
Pitbull type
very
dog.
she had been very horribly maltreated, tortured, really, and then discarded on a city street. She had no tag, no chip, no tattoo. There was no way of recognizing who she was. And I made a very deliberate decision early on in her case to dub her Puppy Doe
Hmm.
because I did not want her to be viewed by members of the public or people who might hold bias against breed types to see her as, oh, just a
A
pit
pit
bull.
bull.
And
Yeah.
Mhm.
so I very deliberately called her Puppy Doe to strip it down to the basics. She was an unknown young dog. And through fantastic teamwork with the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, the City of Quincy Police, Massachusetts detectives, and others in that agency, this case was solved. And this case entailed financial crimes and just a plethora of crazy stuff. It was the case for me that was very seminal and made me think, you know what? At the time, I was vice president of animal welfare at a large private nonprofit animal welfare organization. And I said to myself, lots and lots of people can be an administrator, but I'm doing something here with veterinary forensics to help move the science forward, help move the methodology forward. So I'm going to step away from this high paying job. Yeah, I cried a little bit about that. But I'm going to step away from this and focus more fully on the veterinary forensics practice. And what I have encountered with animal control agencies and police agencies is oftentimes they have no budget to do
None.
a
Mhm.
forensic exam. And even more so if the animal's an unknown animal and there is no suspect. Like almost never will a chief or someone say, oh yeah, sure, go ahead, spend
Yep.
500,
But if it was a
$700 on
body, if it was a human body,
it.
right? They'd be like, oh,
Exactly.
and I get it.
Exactly. And that's because, it's the way our systems are set up. When a unknown person is found deceased on a public street or in a forest or wherever they may lie, they are collected and they're brought to the medical examiner's office and they undergo an autopsy to figure out who they are and what they died from. And this is paid for by the state. So the
Hmm.
government, or in some states it's by the county, but the government has a mechanism for picking up those bodies and delivering that work that's informational. We don't have that in the animal world. So every case is a challenge of how are we going to get the money to get this investigated.
Mm. Do you think we'll ever see a time where that is?
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm a big optimist. So I'm going to say, yep, absolutely. Someday everyone's going to understand how animal maltreatment is part of violence, the whole spectrum of violence. So we need to solve these cases because we need to see who's harming animals may also be a risk for harm against the rest of us. So let's invest in this and let's pursue these cases with equal, I'm going to make up a word,
I love it.
vigorousness,
I make up words all
vigorosity.
the time.
Yeah.
Martha, you might have to be a regular on the show because we talk alike.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
and we'll get to your book here in a second. And
Sure.
for those who may have missed it, we had an episode with your co-author, Dr. Virginia Maxwell, back in September of 22, and we talked briefly about Puppy Doe as well, and kind of how she got involved with you, etc. So I think it's a cool way to tie everything together, and just know that that work's being done, whether you're doing it, whether the University of Florida, ASPCA, whether other forensic veterinarians are out here like there's a lot of work. And I think, to me, what you said earlier really speaks volumes. Is go to her website. If you're listening, go check out vetinvestigator.com. If you have just even a question on a case, like, hey, can I send you radiographs? Like, is that something you can look at?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And another point is the Association of Shelter Veterinarians recently released their second edition of guidelines for standards of care in animal shelters. And in that revised document, they have introduced a section on veterinary forensics because they recognize that shelter veterinarians are often the local resource to answer questions. And so there is encouragement that all shelter veterinarians have some basis in veterinary forensics and understand a little bit about how to get the work done.
I would say that, I mean, I remember I've been with my department for 10 years coming this July. And the reason they decided to start a humane officer program, because they didn't have one, it was just our local law enforcement taking animal cases, was because of a dog that um, she was beaten, abused, forced to drink Drano, and like all kinds of things. Um,
Mm,
but when her body was taken to the vet clinic, they didn't know what to do with her. And
yeah.
I don't believe they got much information from her. And then they had her cremated
Oh,
because nobody had any idea of
oh,
what needed to be done.
I hope that's changing.
Oh, absolutely.
A- and
Absolutely.
I think one of the big problems has been the way pathology has been taught to veterinarians or veterinary students, in that it's taught by academic veterinary pathologists who are used to looking at pristine tissues under a microscope and used to answering questions about how aggressive is the cancer. So I need to see the detail in the nucleus of the cell to see what the genetic material is doing in that particular cell. And when we get to forensic medicine, it's an entirely different ball of wax. We should be looking at every animal, whether it's extremely decomposed, whether it's a pile of soup plus bones, or whether it's desiccated and mummified. Because if you don't look, you don't know what you might be missing. And there's always opportunity to answer some really important questions, regardless of the state of the animal. But vet students aren't taught that. They're taught a different approach, that if an animal's decomposed, it's too, if it's slippery, if the hair is slipping off, it's too late to do and I
Mm.
put too late into quotation marks, too late to do a necropsy. But it's like, wait a minute, if somebody's found dead at an arson scene and the body is charred, and there's
Hmm.
like, you can't do a traditional autopsy, you can't cut open the tissues and look at them because it's char, they're still picking that body up and doing radiographs to see if there's any kind of forensic information there, be it a bullet or something else. You always look.
Hmm.
Always, always look. Do you find, like, okay, with the current state of like the veterinary world, there's not enough veterinarians, period, right? And so, like, how does that translate to getting more forensic veterinarians? Like, how do we encourage people to get into this profession, to understand the benefits of the profession, etc., and how it helps just in general to our overall community having these types of jobs?
Well, I do think that shelter medicine is going to be part of the avenue to providing more forensic services. Um, any vet that works in shelter medicine at a healthy organization learns that this is a fantastic job, because it can be Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. You get to practice veterinary medicine, but you don't have to handhold every time you diagnose an ear infection. You don't have to teach, how to do an ear clean, everything else. So I hope that more veterinarians are attracted to shelter medicine for the community good and for their own personal mental health and job satisfaction. And then if they fold veterinary forensics into that, and if the agencies see the value in providing that service to their communities, we will have a growing and someday sufficient cadre of veterinarians to get this work done.
Veterinarians and vet techs and stuff have to have, continuing education credits every year, every couple of years, depending on your state. Eh, Do you think that there's more of the forensic continuing education coming around? Is that something we can see for the future that, they
I I see veterinary forensics being presented at the AVMA annual conference at not Vetfolio, that's their program, North American Veterinary Conference. I forget what they renamed themselves, VMX, and various state and regional veterinary CEs are beginning, or not beginning, ever since Melinda Merck started her work and sharing it. She was sharing it for a long time, really beating this drum on her own. But there are more and more veterinarians that are doing this work, so they're more available to do presentations. So I'm hoping that it becomes a regular, oh, I can do cardiology, neurology, or veterinary forensics. What am I going to do this month or this year with my CE credit time?
And just to shout out Melinda Merck, she was on. How long ago did we have her on, Bishop?
a year?
Maybe, yeah. And she had some great information too. And one of the things I want to see, do you know of any course? Like, I want to see people to be able to like major, bachelor degree, whatever, get a bachelor's degree in like shelter, not just medicine, but like animal welfare, shelter version, which encompasses everything, right? So shelter, animal control, etc. I think that'd be a cool start to like getting more and more professional in this field.
I don't know of any. I'm sure they're out there, and we'll probably hear about it after I make this statement. But I don't know of any general animal welfare, applied animal welfare programs for undergrad. But certainly
Agreed.
there are master's degree programs out there, like Duquesne has their program that's
Like outside of Pittsburgh,
yeah, they have a
Duquesne
program.
University.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
They
I'm
they
from.
have a program with I think it's with HSUS, but you can get a
Wow,
master's in like animal welfare, like administration of the animal welfare organization. And I only know this because a colleague of mine did that master's program.
that's awesome. I'm going to look into it. For those of you that aren't from Pittsburgh area, you might call it Duquesne, and that's okay.
Or Duquesne is what I said the first time I
Or
saw it in
Duquesne,
writing.
yeah. Like all of that stuff is we'll accept it for now. But
I'm sorry, Dan. I'm still not going to accept your version because it's you.
it's called Duquesne. Like
Are
Duquesne,
you
yeah.
sure?
It's right there in the heart of the city, actually. Oh,
But
that's really
and
cool.
then in terms of vet techs, vets, ACOs, I think the VMX has a program called Vetfolio, and there is an online training program you can get certificates through that is established and run by Melinda Merck. And I think that is fantastic program. It's less down into the scientific weeds of each individual forensic specialty, like entomology or botany, or but it gives you all the basics that you need to be a good practitioner to say, okay, I should be collecting that evidence and sending it to the specialist. The master's programs at University of Florida and now Florida International University are in forensic science, and they are quite a bit more detailed. They're more labor intensive and expensive for a student to undertake, but they're also great programs.
Tomahawk Live Trap has been manufacturing humane animal capture and handling equipment since 1925. They work directly with animal control officers around the world to develop and improve their products so that they're as safe and efficient as possible. Save 10% on your next order by using discount code DCAC Report. Visit them online at www.livetrap.com or call them at 1-800-272-8727.
I also need to keep up my CVT. Some of the I still have to get race credits, so I'm going to be looking on Vetfolio and see what's on there. Because if I can even just excuse me, I have reached out to um, get assistance on certain cases. I talked about that at the beginning, but if I can even help walk my local vets through, hey, I need this,
Exactly.
that, or the other thing.
Exactly. That and when I address animal control officers and vet techs, that's exactly what I tell them, that their role can be so important because in the veterinary exam, they can be asking those pertinent questions. Did this hurt? How do you
Yeah.
know? Can you write that down? Because there are details in a forensic exam that the veterinarian may be performing and assessing in their mind, and they know in their head what's happened to the animal, but they're not writing their impressions down or how they drew a conclusion down in the veterinary record. And that's really important because you can't just skip from the beginning to the end without explaining the middle.
It's funny you say that. I actually had this was many years ago now. Um, I was at a preliminary hearing, and I had the prosecutor um, ask me something about, well, or I'm sorry, the defense attorney. Well, you said that the dog was in pain. How do you know that? What qualifiers do you have that you know that information? And I just looked at him. I'm like, I'm a certified veterinary technician with an associate's degree in veterinary technology. No further questions.
Oh, that's nice that it stopped there. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes it goes further, and so to be able to articulate posture, response to palpation, facial expression, response to pain medications, all that stuff, that's information that you as a vet tech can draw out from the
Mhm.
veterinarian performing the exam and ask them to write it down.
Yeah.
I had a conversation. I actually was at the Midwest Veterinary Conference a few weeks ago in Columbus, and I met Dr. Allison Lash. She's the head vet of the Cleveland Animal Protection League, which is a nonprofit up there in Cleveland, and she does forensics on all the animals there too. Kind of a situation that I think you're in Boston, and we had that conversation about making reports readable by just the common person, right? Because all three of us know what lateral recumbent means, right? But if
Sure.
we're talking to a neighbor and you're like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, so yesterday I went to this house and the dog was lateral on the, and they'll be like, huh? What are you talking about? And there's way more, you know, in depth that both of you can go that I can't even go, like when you're talking about certain things. So then I have to Google it when I'm writing reports to try to put it in layman terms, right? And so that's something that's important when writing your reports and doing expert testimony, is being able to translate, if you will.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
so I mentioned what I talk about with ACOs and vet techs. When I talk to veterinarians, I talk about you have to translate your own language into lay language. So you have to write your detailed veterinary records, but you also need to provide a supplemental report or a summary report that clearly articulates what you saw, what you're thinking, why you think it, in a way that your uncle could pick it up and read it and make sense of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's super important. Let's talk. Can we talk a little bit about the book that you and Dr. Virginia Maxwell worked on?
I'd love to.
All right. Well,
Just
I guess we're going to get it sounds like we're going to get a media copy, Bishop. And then we could just have you back on the show and then we could discuss what we learned.
that sounds like a great idea. And,
Yeah.
it's not without any small degree of trepidation that I can't speak for Virginia, but I released this book. It's called Investigating Animal Abuse Crime Scenes, a Field Guide, and it's being put out by Taylor and Francis, CRC Press. Um, but I'm concerned that a lot of what I wrote was based on my own experience in over 20 years of assisting in animal cruelty investigations. But I know there are things I don't know. And I know there are things that, when you pick it up or when Bishop picks it up, you're going to read it and go, huh, why didn't she write about this? Or why didn't she write that? I'm going to want to hear that, because as soon as we collect enough of that kind of feedback, we're going to be releasing an improved second edition, I'm sure.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. So,
Fantastic. Yeah.
if I don't know about your website, if you can post it, but there is a 20% discount available for this text with a
Oh,
code, so we can make that available to you.
Oh,
And
we can
yes,
absolutely post it. You bet.
yeah,
yeah.
perhaps yes, we can get you a copy so you can do a critique.
Isn't there? Yeah, there's a thing. There's media copies, right?
Yeah,
We're media now,
absolutely,
Bishop. Yeah. And so like
100%,
we should get all the
100%,
books.
absolutely, absolutely,
uh, so yeah, let's talk offline. We'll get the discount code and we'll put you up there. We have a great space for it. So we'd love to
awesome.
have it up there. And I think it's great for like departments well, I shouldn't say will, because I don't know what people's situations are like, but a lot of departments would likely pay for it because it's related directly to work and it's something
Yeah,
that
and
people can.
what we intentionally did, there's quite a few textbooks now for veterinary forensics, but there wasn't a book that was really oriented to the scene responders, the crime
Mhm.
scene investigators. Um, so, but this book has been put together for forensic scientists, veterinarians, animal control officers, first responders, and it's meant to be useful if, oh God, I'm going to a scene with an animal and I've never been to one before. Pick it up and flip to that chapter, or get the electronic version and open it on your phone or your iPad
Mhm.
and get some guidance on what to do in this particular circumstance. And at the back, we have appendices with checklists and diagrams and forms that can be used to help
Nice.
ensure that you're doing a nice, a thorough job with that scene investigation.
That's awesome. I'm excited for it
Yay!
because I, we talk about it frequently on the show that not everybody has the same kind of experience, the same amount of experience, and the fact that some places you get handed a catch pole and keys to a vehicle and told, "Hey, go out there and work. You don't have any training, but just go do it."
Go figure it
Um,
Exactly.
out.
so having something that is tangible that they can keep, everybody can keep with them, and that's fantastic. And I love the idea that you guys are open to um, critiques on it or new ideas
Absolutely.
because there things are always changing in this field.
And
Um,
collective knowledge is so much more powerful than any individuals.
exactly.
So much
So,
more power. Is there a chapter in this book that talks about taking blood from to help determine blunt force trauma in an animal? So this has been talked about a
no,
lot.
no, tell me about this. Where's the
Wait,
science?
what? I don't
Yeah.
know. This has been talked about all the time, and I hear it all the time where
Yeah.
it's like, if an animal is abused, you can draw blood. If it's like physical abuse, blunt force trauma, that Bishop helped me out here, that it can cause like
Liver
some
enzymes.
elevation.
It
Thank you,
Oh,
elevation.
sure. You can have elevations of CK, which is a muscle enzyme, and you can have liver enzyme elevations. You can even have some reddening of the serum, but those are all non-specific findings. So
Ah,
it's they're not going to give you the correlation. It's supportive, and if you're having to put together a circumstantial case for whatever reason, that's an important piece, but it couldn't be the whole evidence. It couldn't be the whole
right.
basis of a charge.
okay,
Eh,
but it okay that makes sense, and I
But
think
did
where
we cover
people.
that? I don't know if we covered that. Oh
but it
god.
would
Well,
be it
there's your
would be
first
something.
critique, Doc. You better revise that. What
I
about
actually
what?
worked hold on. I actually
Yeah.
worked a case where we had a cat that died of blunt force trauma who uh it was like 3 weeks prior actually had blood work done. And unfortunately, it was another one of those we didn't have the body any longer. And when I had talked to a different veterinarian, they're like, "Oh, you don't have the body because we could have actually compared the blood work from
Prior. Yeah.
prior to this to again just give some more support."
Yeah, that paired testing, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
What's your thought on doing infrared photographs of an animal that they're
Mm.
I
suspecting blunt
have
force?
ever since I've learned about like the FLIR photography, I've always wanted to use it, and I think it has great promise. But the versions of the cameras that can pick up the really finite changes, the temperature gradation changes, are extremely expensive, and there's nothing that's affordable enough for any one department to pick one up and use it.
Okay. So the one that you can plug into your cell phone camera thingy, don't
I
do
don't
that.
think it's sensitive enough. Like I think your hands would be more sensitive if you could palpate the animal and
Hmm.
feel like comparatively for swelling on one side versus the other and heat on one side versus the other. I think your hands are actually going to tell you more information than those cameras. But I could be wrong.
I did one, brief hour-long training about it. And I had gone back to my department. We actually have one for fire
Hmm.
investigations.
Hmm.
I haven't there isn't a lot of structural knowledge out there yet about it that they were able to give us. Okay, if you have this, it means this. We were kind of told, like, if you have the camera, you need to kind of play with it. You need to learn what baselines are, take different
Exactly.
animals out and,
So you have to create your own data set for
yep,
validation, which is a lot of work.
it is.
Um, and when you talk about the fire scene, right? If you're looking for occult, like glowing wires or whatever's behind the wall, you're talking about a temperature differentiation between maybe the ambient temperature is 72 degrees and that thing is what, like 400 degrees or more. So like you have
Mm.
a really huge step. But when you're talking about the heat of inflammation from an injury, it's only going to be a couple degrees. So it needs much more sensitivity and needs to be tuned in to that degree of sensitivity.
Yeah.
But they use FLIR technology for detecting, because when cows have ouchy feet, they don't produce as much milk.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh,
dairy barns, and a cow won't always show you that her foot is hurting until it's hurting really bad. And so they use it as a screening tool when the cows are being marched in or out of the milking parlor to see, how's everybody's feet today. So,
Nice.
if it can be used to that degree, I know it's got utility for us in our forensic work on animal cruelty cases. It's just that the technology isn't affordable. But I love the idea you have, Bishop, about encouraging folks to talk to their fire department if they're with a municipal agency and see if there would be some opportunity to collaborate to use that technology.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Bishop, you
We
have
need to
all the
play with
good
those.
ideas.
That's why you keep me around, Dan.
Well, I think you stay to help keep this show around because otherwise, I don't know how many people would be listening. Doc, question about something Melinda Merck said, and I haven't. I should just go back to the episode and listen to it. It's a 2-part episode, and she talked about rib fractures, old and new. Is that a pretty? She said, Bishop, do you remember? She said something about the likelihood of that being not blunt force trauma was very
Hmm.
slim.
Yes, which I've actually run into this, and it's because of a lot of times because of the flexibility of the ribs.
Okay,
Yeah,
Doc, what's
I
your
mean,
take?
there's
Yeah.
Yeah.
100% agree with her,
Okay.
because a dog and cat ribs do not break easily. And when there's a focal break that only impacts one or two ribs, the likelihood of it being from anything accidental is very, very low. And then when you have a rib with a callus on it, showing that it had that kind of impact and it was healing from it, and you have a fracture that's more recent, it's like, wow, not only did this very focused impact hit this animal once, it was
Hmm.
multiple times separated by a degree of weeks or months. So that's highly suggestive of what Helen Monroe, who's a veterinary pathologist in the UK, called the battered pet syndrome. And it was based on a paper that was done in human pediatrics here in the US called the battered child syndrome, where
Okay.
one of the findings is bones with calluses and then new fractures as well, or old bruises plus new bruises.
Wow. Let's
I
switch it up. I want to switch it up to the pick of the litter because that's sad stuff. I don't really want to keep talking about battered pet syndrome. I never knew that was a thing, but I'm gonna look her up too because that sounds fascinating.
It's
So what we're
MUNRO. Yeah, sorry.
MUN? Okay, just so I
Yeah.
spell it right. Sure. Thank you. So with the
You
pick of the
won't
litter,
pronounce it right, that's for sure.
whatever. I'll call her Moonrow. It's fine. That's fine. This is true. This is very true. With the pick of the litter, it's something that we just ask you questions. I'm going to jump in because there's some questions that probably don't go with what you do. And so, Bishop, take it
Hmm.
away, and then I'll just jump in with the emergency lights, etc.
Okay. Excuse me. So, first question, real simply. Nice, Dan. What is your official title?
President.
I
I
love it.
made the thing that big for president. Okay, cool. I thought it was going to be a
Well,
long title, so
I'm no, I'm president of my consulting business, but then I'm
yeah.
interim veterinary medical director for the city of Boston, and I'm adjunct assistant clinical professor at the Cummings School of Veterinary Medicine at Tufts University. So if you want a lot
All
of
right.
words, there
I ain't
you
got
go.
space for all that. We'll just do president. Yo, that. Yep.
All right,
Mm-hmm.
hold on. We're gonna pause here for a second, Dan.
Pause.
Tufts University, as in the Tufts scale.
Yes, yeah, that was developed by a graduate student and Dr. Gary Petronic, who is one of my mentors.
So, what is
You-
your feeling between using the Tufts scale versus only the Purina scale?
So the
for
tough
body
scale
condition
for body
scoring.
condition scoring,
Yeah.
I don't use it at all because it's backwards. It only goes to the skinny half
5,
of
right?
the
Yeah.
scale. So
Okay.
I disregard the body condition score part of that, and I also disregard the weather scale because it's
Hmm.
confusing and it's not really validated
If anyone
by
has
the
ever
kind of.
seen that, you would think I made it because that's how
It's
confusing it is.
complicated. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
I
my
it's
mean, that's
goodness.
very
complicated.
grand.
But the two parts of it that I love and I use all the time are the environmental scale and then
Hmm.
the animal condition scale. So, talking about the degree of matting and the
Mm.
covering of orifices with mats and the presence of foreign material, and then the environment with junk that the animal could injure itself on, and those kinds of things. I think those two scales are really helpful. And I love to use that language and quote it in my reports because it's not just my opinion of, oh, it's a little bit dirty, but animal yards are dirty. It's like, no, here's a university that says this is an unacceptable level of filth.
Yeah.
Do you think that working there in collaboration with the um, create? Wow, I'm channeling Dan
Yes.
here. Creators, could is there any chance we could get that updated to it be more inclusive of the wide range of body condition and then taking out that weather? Because I do think it gives a much deeper explanation to the prosecutors who aren't on
It's
scene.
going to require an academic individual who's interested in putting in the time to do the research. And
Okay.
unfortunately, Gary Petronic is no longer at the Center for Animals and Public Policy at the Cummings School.
Okay.
So hopefully, maybe somebody listening who's been playing around with the idea of doing um, a PhD or a master's project on something like this would say, "Hey, I would love to take that and
Oh,
polish
that'd
it
be
up to make it
fantastic.
more usable." So put your tassels on. No, oh God, that sounds awful. Put your square black caps on.
Wow. I mean, college is expensive, yo. So I get what you're saying.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's yeah.
Oh,
I
Next
am
podcast.
question.
Anybody
I am a
listening?
fairly deep shade of red right now. I'll have you know.
That's why we only do audio here.
um, but yeah, I think that would be fantastic. I think it'd be incredibly helpful and great to update that for use. So anybody listening, reach out to us. We can help you with ideas if that's a project you want.
I'll help with the project
Okay.
too. Let's go.
Huh?
I said I'll help with the project too. If Tufts
Yeah.
can make it as ugly as they did, I can make it just as ugly. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Dan can just let him write some words. It'll be okay. All right. How many times have you been bitten?
Ooh, great question. Um, dozens? I don't know. I've been to the emergency room for antibiotics
Hmm,
2 times for cat bites.
it's
I
always the
once had a
cats.
ferret dangling from my wrist for a few minutes, and that was awfully painful. And it's really hard when a ferret's just hanging there. Like, how do you get it off without causing it
Right.
harm? So I ended up on my knees crawling over to the sink and turning the water on and rinsing my wrist, and that did cause the ferret to let go, but that was awful. And the first time I was bit, I was 5 years old, and there was a miniature poodle named Henry, and I wanted to play fetch with his bone. I did not know that you don't take bones from dogs, and so I took a
oh,
bone, and he took a crunch. That was my first
Fair.
trip to the emergency room. He gave me stitches.
Oh, all
Henry.
God
right.
bless Henry. Rest in peace, Henry.
Yeah. But it was provoked, Dan.
Yeah, that
Exactly.
sure sounds like it.
What is your spirit animal?
It is an otter.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
that's cool.
You know,
Have you ever worked on an
flo-
otter?
no, I wish I had, but floating on my back, snacking on clams, knocking rocks together, putting them in my armpits, playing. That's all me.
Sounds like a New England thing to do. Yeah.
Rocks in my armpits.
What is your go-to snack?
Ooh, I love, 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 but don't eat Doritos. So if I'm at a party, I'm going to slide over to the Dorito bowl and chow like nobody's business. But I try to avoid dairy products. I try to avoid those simple carbs. So I don't really like, if anybody asks me, I don't eat Doritos, but you might see the telltale dust on my face.
Fair. Have you ever adopted an animal, maybe rescued on duty, or in your case, had the opportunity to work with or anything like that?
Sure. I currently have a French bulldog with, we call her, wait for it, Frenchie. And she,
Does
well,
she have
she
pink
was,
hair?
no, she's tan, but she was a foster failure. She was adopted and returned about 5 times,
Oh,
and so I took her home to figure out what, because nobody really articulated why it wasn't working, and it's kind of those, like, we didn't know she was deaf, so she was hard to train, and here we are,
Mm,
13 years later, and she's still not completely housebroken, and she's got tons of food allergies and chronic ear infections, and she's afraid of men, and she can't do stairs, and she hates to do doorways. So she's just complicated. But yeah,
Frenchie,
Francie, we love her. She's
well,
sweet
just not
I
for you.
girl.
mean, when you're getting into those people who are probably breeding dogs that don't have any idea what they're doing, they just want to see dollar signs.
Yeah,
That's how
exactly.
you get it crunchy.
She was out of a dachshund hoarding case, so she was the one
Oh,
French bulldog among a bunch of. Oh yeah, so that gave her some food aggression. Forgot
oh
about that
I
too.
would imagine.
no. My big old 80-pound bull thingy. He's a meat missile. Was afraid of the pack of 4 dachshunds at doggy daycare.
Exactly. So, and I have tons of animals from law enforcement cases that have been rehabilitated and adopted to friends because I couldn't let go, but I couldn't hoard. So it's like, will you please take this dog so I can love him forever?
Aw, I want to see him
That's
on the
awesome.
weekend. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, my turn. I'm going to jump in, and this is
Okay.
now choices. So we're going to switch it up. We ask officers certain questions, but this doesn't really apply. So you have to choose one. You
Okay.
have to. Okay,
All right.
autoclave or an X-ray machine.
X-ray machine.
Okay, because you can hand scrub everything good,
Well, I'm usually working with dead stuff,
so it doesn't matter.
sterility doesn't matter.
I should have thought about that question a little bit better. What is wrong with me? That's funny. All right, let's think about this next question. Okay. All right, here we go. If you could teach any class at a university, what would it be?
I think it would be animal welfare.
Okay. Just like a general animal welfare?
Well, I would take it the whole spectrum of the systems we have to the systems we should have, the interface, the link, all that stuff, and then pushing the boundaries of animal law and animal rights, sort of the
Okay.
the whole kit and caboodle.
Got it. No, that's a great answer to that. All right. Next
Mhm.
question. Your favorite tool while you're doing a necropsy?
My brain.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
great
because
answer.
it's all about being thoughtful and reflecting and not going too fast because you just have to think about what you're seeing.
You're you're bones of the vet world.
Well, maybe.
All right. And last question. This does apply. If you could do a ride along with anyone in the world, living, dead, etc., who would it be?
Oh, dang. Got to do a ride along.
Yep.
I think I want to do it with you and Bishop because I really,
Hey,
no, seriously, I've enjoyed talking with you. And I think we could go on talking for, a day long ride along and still be enjoying ourselves.
hey,
I
if
would
you're
have
ever
to
in
like,
Wisconsin,
yeah.
All right.
Next time you're in Colorado, you can sit in my office with me because that's where most of my time is. But we could plant something. We could like go plant a dead body. We actually, we get our occasional dead
yeah.
bodies. We'll
Oh,
just take one that
Okay, Dan.
died of. We'll take one that died of old age, and then we'll like place it somewhere, and then we'll just see,
do a mock trial for or mock situation for your
vaccine.
staff.
Yeah, we got to
Yeah,
get the ground penetrating radar. There's
Mm-hmm.
a
oh,
lot of
that'd be
stuff you can
fun.
do.
Drone.
Drone,
Mm,
yes. Do drone documentation of your crime scene and GPS stuff.
Hmm.
that would be insane. We should treat it like it's a real crime scene, not just an animal crime, right? That's the
Exact.
difference.
That's what I'd like to see,
Wait,
honestly.
Dan, there's a difference.
Well, to some, remember that case I talked about
No.
right before I left Denver, where that dog was bludgeoned to death with a crowbar, and
Hmm.
police went on scene and walked over and was like, "Oh, it's dead, peace," and then
Hmm.
waited for the morning with all the snowfall and tire marks and shoe marks and just things that could have been
Yeah.
used as evidence.
Yeah. Picked up
You
the
know,
crowbar. You say, hey, look at this. They probably hit it with this.
Hmm. Yep.
so yeah, that's
That's because
frustrating.
we're
Yeah. And
not law
so,
enforcement.
not to be self promotional or anything, but that was again one of those philosophies behind this investigating animal abuse crime scenes, a field guide. We know that animal control officers and vet techs have tremendous amount of training and lived experience about animals, and we know that uh, detectives and investigators and police departments and sheriff's offices have a great deal of information about how to properly approach and process a crime scene. But to put those two together and give in one resource a tool that helps the animal folk do a better job at the crime stuff and help the crime folk do a better job at the
Hmm.
animal stuff, then it's a it kind of let's knit the worlds together, because it should be, as you say, Bishop, the same exact approach.
Well, and
Absolutely.
I'm thinking back to a case that I'm currently waiting for charges to go through on, and it is no different than a vet tech. A vet tech is, your nurse, um, your pharmacy tech, your radiology tech, your surgery tech. They have many hats that they wear. It's no different in the ACO world because, yeah, okay, we animal handling, but let me tell you, I did all the deep digging, and I had the detectives looking at me and going, wait, you're doing all of this work? This case didn't get passed on to us? No, I did all of that work. I'm doing as much as the detectives are and
Right.
Hmm.
utilizing the same resources and, just like patrol officers and then doing some of that veterinary world stuff of knowing when an animal is injured, not feeling well, things like that. We wear many hats.
Very many
Agreed.
hats.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It's a great career path for those of us that are affected by ADHD.
Dan
That's
doesn't
me.
have it.
Yep. Yep, that's definitely me. Bishop, you teach something for the end of the show. What are you talking about? What do you got?
Well, we have our trip to New Orleans.
It's New
We're going to
Orleans, but
be
it's fine.
whatever.
Or
You're going to
New
correct me.
Orleans.
Um, Dan and I are both going to be down there, and we decided that we were going to do a meet and greet. So, anybody that is listening right now, we're going to have a day. I think we're looking at Tuesday night after the conferences, and we're going to get together. We can talk stories, we can talk the show, we can do whatever, but we're going to make a time and a place specifically for you guys to come meet us, talk to us. So, any of our listeners, reach out and I will make sure that we get a location actually on the Facebook page. I think I know where we're going to do it, but things could change. So I
Yeah,
want
stay
everybody
tuned.
to be thinking about it. Yeah.
And we'll have stickers for you and maybe some other stuff. I might even buy you alcohol, but
Yeah.
that's,
Maybe
yeah,
we'll have some snacks and just sit around and talk for the night and share war stories. You guys can ask us questions and give us some ideas for the show that you've been wanting to see.
and that training in New Orleans is that's the Animal Care Expo from HSUS. So we'll be there as students as well. And then I am presenting a science fair project. That's not the right word. They have posters. I'm actually really looking forward to it. I don't know what to expect, but I have my poster already done that I made into a blanket. Yes, because I want to keep it and it's easier to pack. So judge me all you want.
That's
Um,
not a poster. Posters are made out of paper.
Whatever. It's still the same concept. Okay. Anyway, so thank you for listening. Doc, did we not touch on anything you want to make sure our listeners hear before we wrap up the show?
No, I just encourage anybody that you're working with, if you have a veterinarian, encourage them to look, because you can learn. Just look,
Mhm.
help me learn.
Help you learn.
Awesome.
Tell your veterinarians to check out the website, veterinary. I can't even talk. Vetinvestigator.com. Again, vetinvestigator.com to get in touch with Doc. And we're going to have the book on our website. And it sounds like we got a 20% discount code. So stay tuned for that. Check out our website, humanemain.com. And thanks for listening. And as we always do on this show, we like to say, keep it
humane.
Main. Oh, that's the best one yet.